little animated me.
Hey everybody. Welcome to my sketchbook. Sorry, I'm kinda tired because I've had a lot of homework due these last 2 weekends. I remember a time when homework wasn't due on Saturdays. However, I shall not be defeated. So let's jump right on into it then. Art Styles Part 2. Drawing different styles. Now, you don't have to have watched Part 1 to see this video, but you can if you want to. It's basically about how I further developed my art style by varying it. I'll link it down below. This video is about why drawing in different styles is important. And I just want to reiterate that these videos are not meant to be condescending or lecturing. They're more of me explaining my process, and maybe you guys can benefit from that. Before we start, I do want to explain why I think drawing different styles can be beneficial. First, it looks really good in an animation portfolio. When you're organizing your portfolio, it's good to have consistent work. But if everything's the same, that doesn't really show your entire skill set. If you have 2 or 3 different styles, it gives a clear picture of what you can do. And it's also good to keep in mind the style of the studio you'd want to apply to. Just don't go too crazy with the amount of styles you do. You want your portfolio to look like consistent development, not a mess of random doodles. Second, it helps you improve your other styles of drawing. I have to admit, if I didn't take figure drawing, my style wouldn't be where it is right now. After taking it, I realized that my character's poses looked really stiff. So after that, I decided to use poses of both manga characters and live people, and ever since, my character's poses look more fluid and natural. So if you think you don't have to learn figure drawing because you draw cartoons, just know that drawing from life can actually help you draw your cartoons. Anywho, let's get into the sketching, shall we? There we go. So I decided to work on a semi-cartoony realistic style for this video. And the reason why I decided to dedicate an entire video to this style is because I've never really found true consistency in it. I've had facial features change slightly, I've also had some proportion inconsistencies, so my goal for this video is to find a level of consistency to where I can really call it my style. And also, a lot of my portfolio consists of little animated me work, so I wanted to add a different style to vary my portfolio a little bit more. I did experiment with this kind of style back in October for Inktober 2018. Here are some of the drawings that feature this style. When I first started this exercise, the first question that popped into my head was, how should I do this? I wasn't really sure how to start or whether I wanted my style to lean more towards the realistic side or the cartoony side. I just had a lot of questions. But then I realized I should just start. So I just started sketching some faces from some pictures on the internet, but I noticed that the realism looked a little too forced, so I realized I wanted to lean more towards the cartoony end of the scale. So when I drew the third face, I made the eyes a little bigger, the nose a little rounder, and lips not quite as defined. And at the end of that sketch, I thought that style represented my personality a little bit more. And I continued to take those aspects and take them further and sketching more heads. I started to do a head turnaround where I had the face forward and then 3/4 view and then side view. So the 2 things I learned from the beginning of this exercise was to just start, don't ask yourself so many questions, just sketch out, don't think about it too much. And if you like things, just sketch over and over again. Even if it feels redundant, just keep doing it. When you find things about your style that you like, just try to practice it and take it further. It'll make things look better in the end. Now, I did take a break from the sketching part of this video, so that way I could focus on the animation part of this video. And I also got a lot of homework due right before spring break. So I took an entire day to sketch out in my sketchbook different things, and then I would fix them in the computer. I sketch things out better on paper than on the computer. I don't really know why. I guess I'm just one of those people who have a hard time sketching on the computer. And if you have trouble sketching digitally as well, there's no shame in sketching in the sketchbook, taking a picture and importing it and tracing over it. I drew more heads and faces, and I also sketched out figures as well. And I also want to state that I focused on drawing females in this video. I just have a little bit more experience drawing women as opposed to men, and I wanted to make this video focused on figuring out my style, as opposed to figuring out my style and drawing something I'm not as familiar with. So I thought it'd be best if I figured out my style on something I'm comfortable drawing, and then I can manipulate it easier. Who knows, maybe I'll make a part 3 video drawing things I'm not used to drawing. Okay, so now on to the figures. And I have to say, I think this part was the hardest part of this entire video. Sketching figures is always really hard, especially when you first start out. I do have a little bit more experience because I did take figure drawing, but still, it's a hard skill to learn. I did go with a little more of a stylized approach to the bodies. I gave them a little bit longer legs because I like that aesthetic. But I also kept a little bit more of a sense of realism too. I didn't take it extremely far. I chose 3 different poses for this video. And I don't think I got any of these poses extremely perfect, but I think I got them to a point where I can say I'm satisfied. One of the things I chose to do differently than I usually do when sketching poses is I decided to sketch them very lightly and loosely in my sketchbook, and I decided to refine them more in the computer. I do plan on working more with poses in the future. Actually, when I finished sketching, I decided to purchase a reference doll because I had so much trouble finding pose references that worked with what I wanted. And if I have a doll, I can manipulate it to be the exact pose I want. Not gonna lie, I did get a little frustrated with this video and finding references. So enough is enough. Actually, funny story, I did go to a live sketch event during the making of this video. It was actually really fun. There was refreshments, people to talk to, and they had little boys modeling for us. It was kind of cool. Though I realized when you have kids pose for you, they don't usually stay still. But it was still fun nonetheless. And now we go back into some heads. That sounded weird. But like I said before, the key to making a consistent style is to keep drawing the same things over and over again to make it a habit. These particular faces I sketched in my sketchbook, and I decided to fix them in the computer. And I have to say, after this, I really felt, yeah, this is my consistent style. This is what I've been looking for. The first sketch was just of a random girl, and I chose to give her a short pixie haircut because I also want to change hairstyles, not always just long hair. And the second face is actually me. I've been trying to work on this style that could incorporate my facial features so that way you can tell it's me without me fixing myself to look more attractive. Not saying necessarily unattractive, but you know what I mean. And now that I found a style that I'm happy with and I can make it consistent, I decided to make it into something that I can turn into final pieces. So basically, the next few drawings in this video are going to be things I will turn into final pieces later on. The first one is a redraw of a painting I did way back in 2017. Here's the original drawing on the screen. And as you can see, it's not terrible, but the face proportions are kind of off. And I have to say this, what is going on with that nose? And the ironic part is that that picture was actually a repaint of the first one. I don't even want to show you the first one because it's terrifying. But I think the problem is I chose to learn 2 things at the same time. I was learning how to use watercolor paints, and I was also learning how to draw what I wanted to draw. And I think when you try those things, it can make you more frustrated because you're having trouble with 2 things at once. In the redraw, I tried to keep certain things like her big eyes and her antlers, and I also wanted to make this more of a portrait. So I made a circle around it as kind of, I wouldn't say rope, maybe a ribbon. I do plan on making this another watercolor painting because I got brush pens for Christmas and I haven't found anything to use them for yet. And I also got some toned mixed media paper and I haven't used it either. I'll turn it into a speed paint and I'll post it on my Instagram TV. That'll be fun to watch. I'm really proud of how this sketch turned out. I think it was the best one of this video so far. I think it's really the only one that turned out exactly how I wanted it to. But that's the reality of sketching. Most of the time, nothing you sketch is going to turn out exactly how you want it to, but then there'll always be that select few that you're really happy with. And the final sketch of this video is another redraw that I did a little bit more recently. I would say about September, October of 2018. This was when I was starting to experiment more with the semi-realistic style. And as you can see, it's more composed than the other redraw was, but there's still some things I wanted to fix on it. And unfortunately with this sketch, I just ran out of time with it, but I do plan on finishing it in the future. With this sketch, I had so many problems finding a good reference. Like the one I had was so pixelated I couldn't see the fingers, which is something that you really need to see in order to draw hands. At that point, it really wasn't a reference anymore. And I kept digging and digging and digging, and I just couldn't find another reference that would help me with that hand pose. But I still think that the sketch itself looks quite nice. I really wanted to turn this sketch into a finished painting, but unfortunately I just didn't have the time to do it. I do plan on doing something with this sketch. I may redraw it if necessary, but I plan on doing something with this in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I realized that this video was pretty long, so I really appreciate you watching until the end. And I also hope this inspired you to just jump right on into sketching something you want. Don't think about it too hard, just do it. Again, I do plan on making the last two sketches finished prints. Speaking of finished prints, I have a quick announcement before I go. Introducing the Little Animated Me Redbubble store. If you'd like prints, shirts, or stickers of my illustrations and comics, then come on down. So far I only have 2 things up there, but I will be adding more really soon. If you're interested, go to redbubble.com/people/littleanimatedme with 1T. I'm actually really excited about this because I've always wanted to design my own graphic tees, and now I can. And I can also design phone cases, journals, etc. Neat! Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have an animatedly great day! Bye!